My name is Kristen Baum. I am a criminalist at the Iowa DCI Crime Laboratory in Ankeny, Iowa. I work in the DNA section. I'm employed in the Casework section as well as the Convicted Offender section. Today I'm going to train you on our new offender entry website that's coming online in response to the aggravated misdemeanor law that will be coming into place July 1st of this year. So let's go ahead and get started. The class today is going to cover a few topics. First, we're going to start with what is CODIS? Why are we collecting these samples? What are we trying to accomplish? Well, to begin with, it's all back to CODIS, which is our database in the DNA section. It's very similar to the APHIS or NIBIN databases, where we are able to compare convicted offender samples to forensic casework samples. Secondly, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the convicted offender DNA collection. How long has this been in place? How long have we been collecting DNA samples from convicted offenders? And what laws were in place and are in place now? Thirdly, I should say, I'm going to introduce the new offender website. We brought this online at the laboratory in response to the amount of samples we will be collecting going forward with the new law. It's very similar to the current evidence pre-log that's in place on the casework side. Some of you may be familiar with that. All right, we're going to cover a little bit of what to send to the DCI lab. Once you're done collecting a DNA sample and the fingerprint and all of the information involved in these convicted offender DNA kits, what are you supposed to send to the laboratory? What do we need from you? And then finally, we're going to see the new DNA kit in all of its glory and how to use it and how to collect with it. So that video will be at the very end of this presentation. All right, let's start with CODIS. What is CODIS? Well, first, let's talk about what DNA does at the lab. First, we start with our DNA casework section. We get evidence from a crime scene. From that evidence, we develop a DNA profile, and that DNA profile gets loaded into CODIS, the database. We also have the convicted offender section. We collect a sample from a convicted offender, we develop a DNA profile, and we load that DNA profile into CODIS. CODIS stands for Combined DNA Indexing System. We're basically taking and comparing profiles developed at local, state, and federal crime labs across the United States, loading them into the database and comparing them electronically. The state of Iowa is only a state laboratory format. We don't have local crime labs. So in our state, we load profiles in the state crime lab that then are compared to the national level or the federal level. Basically, what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to link together crimes from convicted offenders to casework samples that are collected at a crime scene. If we can link those crimes to convicted offenders or those crimes to other crimes, we're hopefully providing investigative leads to officers who are working those particular crime cases. And in our hope, especially with this new aggravated misdemeanor law, we're hoping to deter future criminal acts. Once an offender understands that they're in the database, that we've collected their sample, maybe in the back of their mind they may think twice about committing a crime again. All right, so growing the database. How are we going to do this and why are we doing this? Well, let's start with 2000. In 2000, we began collecting convicted offender profiles and putting them into the database. In 2000, there were 11 offenses required for DNA collection. In 2005, the database grew a bit because we included new offenses, so 557 offenses in total in 2005. Those include felonies and sex crimes. This law currently on the books is our law that we follow now and are collecting samples under. 2014, this is the expansion to the law. We will be expanding the law to most aggravated misdemeanors. There are a few exceptions to the law. There's about 4 exceptions. So those are something to keep in the back of your minds. But right now, most aggravated misdemeanor convictions will require a DNA collection. That puts us at a grand total of 784 total offenses. It's a bit overwhelming. It's a very, very large number. However, to put you at ease, we are working on putting together a code list so that we'll know exactly what needs to be collected and what offenses apply for that collection. Like I said, it adds 227 offenses for the collection that we are not currently collecting under. I should preface this. I understand a lot of this font on these screens might be kind of small to see. You will have access, and you already have access on our DNA website. You'll have access to our training manual. We would like you to print that training manual out and follow along as we get farther into this presentation. But to cover our House File 527 law and the wording behind it, I thought I'd bring this to your attention. If you notice, it's crimes committed after July 1st, 2014. Not convicted, committed. So this is not a retroactive law. We want those individuals who have committed a crime after July 1st, 2014, and then convicted of that aggravated misdemeanor to be collected under this law. Please note that juveniles do not count under this particular law. So that's why you become a very integral part of this new DNA database collection. Now, how are we going to try to keep track of all these samples that are being collected by probation parole officers, yourself at county sheriff's level, or even Department of Corrections at the intakes? Well, the laboratory is coming up with an offender entry website, and that's what I'm going to train you on today. So if you would start with your manuals that have been applied to the website, go ahead and print them off and we can follow along. First, introduction. Again, this is a very busy slide with lots of small words. It's in the beginning of your manual. It's our disclaimer saying if you disclose any confidential information that's obtained on this website, it becomes a Class D felony and we get to collect your sample. So please keep that in mind when you are accessing this website. All right, so let's start with the new user's registration. In order to use the offender website, the offender entry website, an individual must have the following. First, a computer, second, a printer, and third, internet access. Those are the big things here. You will also need to complete the training provided by us, the DCI Crime Lab. There's a variety of different ways you can do that, one of which is watching the video that I'm providing to you today, along with the classes that we went around the state and provided to your coworkers. They've attended the training. As long as you've attended the training, you can be provided a certificate and we will acknowledge you and give you a username and password. The other way you can be identified as completing the training is having one of those trained individuals train you. We at the DCI Lab will provide you with a quiz. You will fill out that quiz, complete it, hopefully get all the questions correct, send it back to us, and we will provide you with a username and password. So once you've completed the training at the laboratory, you will be provided, like I said, with a website account. To access the website, a notification is going to be emailed out to you when the website is live. Right now, it is not live and has not been activated yet. So when we have that website ready to go, we're going to send an email directly to you, or there will be a link on the DCI website, which can be seen here in yellow. If you haven't been to the DCI website before, I would highly recommend it. It is a very useful tool across the board in accessing anything about the criminalistics laboratory. So once our website is activated, you're going to find a link below the evidence pre-log link here that will take you to the offender entry website. If you are familiar with the evidence pre-log, the following information I'm going to give you should be pretty user-friendly. All right, so basic login from the offender entry website opening page. You've got a couple of choices here. You've got a username, a password, login, and change password. So we will provide you with your user ID once you've completed the training, as well as the password. You will come to this screen. You will place your user ID in there and your password in there. We would ask that the first time that you access this website, we'd like it if you change your password to something that's a little more applicable to you. Unfortunately, we don't have much control over it, but our IT staff will require us to change the password every 90 days. So this will be one more password that needs to go on your list in remembering what it is. But if you'd come in here, change your password to something that you recognize, go forward into the offender entry home screen. So, like I said, a successful entry will take you to the offender home screen. This screen is going to provide you with a couple of options: search offender, enter offender, reprint recent submissions, edit user profile, and download the manual. This is another location here where you can get a hold of the manual along with our DCI website. Okay, first things first, one thing I want you to note is once you are into this website, please do not use your back and forward browser buttons. What that'll do is if you kick yourself back using the back button, it's going to log you out of your screen, so you have to start over again. We ask that you use the close button on the windows that are provided to you, because that's going to take you back to the subsequent screen. All right, so let's start with search offender. From the offender home screen, we're going to go ahead and select the search offender button. What that's going to do for us, it's going to allow you as a user to search our current database. What is in the laboratory database? This is going to provide us with a prevention for duplicate sample collection. Right now, our laboratory is processing about 10% duplicate samples. This new aggravated misdemeanor law is going to double, if not triple, the load of work at the lab. We currently process about 7,000 DNA samples in the convicted offender section per year. So if that doubles our workload, we've got about 14,000. If we're doing 10% duplicates, we're going to be looking at wasting quite a bit of resources and time running duplicate samples. So we're hoping that this search is going to prevent us from collecting duplicate samples. So please remember that this search shall be done prior to any collection. You want to confirm that that individual is not in our laboratory database. So the search offender screen is going to look like this. You've got some choices here: last name, first name, DCI number, SOCH number. The more information you can put in here, the better your search results are going to be. Please enter at least one field before you perform a search. The last name, first name fields are programmed to be wildcard searches. So if you've got a last name of Smith and only a first initial of D, and that's what you put into your search parameters, you're going to be returned with individuals having the name Danny Smith, Donald Smith, etc., etc. It could become quite a list if you don't have the specifics in there. All right, so after you've entered the appropriate information, go ahead and hit the search button. All right, this is what the search offender results screen will look like. We've got a couple of items of information here, and we'll talk about them right now. First, please remember to check for multiple pages. Just like any online shopping, you always want to look to see if there's more selection there for you. So we've got a previous and a next button. Always check to see if those are highlighted or available to you to find more individuals. See? Secondly, we've got some offender information down here. If you find your individual, please confirm that their information matches the information that you have. If it doesn't, continue your search. Now, the big one down here at the bottom. If an offender you are searching for is in the database, but this box here, need to be recollected, is checked, we will need that sample recollected. We're hoping to put some highlighting or some change of font color in with this particular item because it's not really that noticeable going forward. So maybe we could get a blinking billboard that says you need to recollect the sample. We're going to try for something along those lines. All right, now if you've got nothing returning, up in the top you're going to see no matching records. So those are some things to keep an eye out for when you're on this particular page. All right, so you say you search for your offender, but they's not there. He or she is not there. We come back out to the home screen. We click on the button that says Enter Offender. The Enter Offender screen is shown below. So a few things to note here. We've got a couple of choices down along the bottom. There's a list of particular individuals here in the top. First, if you've got an individual, say you've got this Terrence Whaley, that you've started that individual, but you don't have all of his information. Say you're missing a social security number or a charge on him, and you're not sure of what it is, and you've saved him, but have not submitted him to the lab, he's going to be available out here to edit or view. If you find the social security number for him, you can come to this screen, select Terrence Whaley, click the Edit and View button down below, and his information can be filled in and submitted to the lab. If you discover that, say, this Corey Weston individual, you weren't sure of his charge particularly, so you went to check on it. You found out that that charge did not qualify for a DNA sample, so you, as long as he is highlighted, can go ahead and delete him straight from this screen. Now, if you've got, say, this test person 3 here, he's ready. You had to check on a few things, but you were correct in what you entered into the website. You can come right down here and click the Submit to Lab button, and that's going to be submitted straight to the lab, and the process will move forward. Finally, our offender is not started here. We've got a new one in front of us, and we're ready to add. So we go ahead and click the Add button. So here's the Add New Offender screen that will pop up. The red font is required fields. The kit number is very, very important. The one thing I want you guys to go away from this training with is knowing that that kit number needs to be entered correctly. Without the correct kit number or a corresponding correct kit number to the kit you are collecting a sample on, we cannot process it. We will have to call you to find out more information. If those kit numbers are not typed in properly, we're going to have to get a hold of you. So, if you walk away with anything, please, please, please double check your kit numbers. All the information that you can possibly enter, of course the red fields are required, please make sure you enter in this screen. So if you have a DCI number, an FBI number, an APHIS live scan number, we'll take that information. The more information we have, the better. If you're in the process of entering information in, you've got your name, your date of birth, your social number, and this error pops up. Basically, it's telling you, hey, a duplicate record has been found. Please confirm if it needs to be recollected. So, you're going to navigate back out of this screen. You're going to come back out to the home screen. You're going to search for that offender again. So, you're going to put the same information in that you put in the first time. You're going to identify the search. You're going to identify your individual, and you're going to check this Needs to Recollect button. If that is not checked, you don't need to collect that guy, or that offender, excuse me. He doesn't need to be in our database. We already have him. Keep in mind, there's some small font at the bottom. It's bigger in your manual. If you have been contacted by the DCI Crime Lab to recollect an individual and you're still getting this error, please contact us, because on our end we need to flag for recollection to allow that sample to come in. All right, back to our Add New Offender screen. We've got qualifying offense down here, and I wanted to talk through this a little bit with you. It's a required field. Right now, we are trying to go for just a general category. We want to know the most serious offense for which that offender is convicted of. Our choices include, in this drop-down menu here, felony, sex offense aggravated, sex offense serious, NCIC. Now the NCIC choice is referring to those out-of-state offenders. If you've got a sex offender that's coming in to register into the Iowa Sex Offender Registry, that is the type of individual. You may not have his qualifying offense information, but we need to collect him because we know he's registering for our sex offender registry. We want to get that gentleman in our database. So that's the type of situation where you could select that out-of-state, that NCIC individual. All right, and then finally, this is going to be the big one for us folks, this aggravated misdemeanor choice. If they have a qualifying aggravated misdemeanor conviction, go ahead and use that in your drop-down. And then, of course, we have the catch-all of other. That's always going to be out there if you need it. You have no idea. You're pretty sure they've got a qualifying offense, but it's not one of the following that you have choices of. The other is there for that catch-all. All right, now you would be doing us a huge favor if you can come into the comments section and enter the crime code associated with the individual that's in front of you. This crime code is something that's very useful to us in the DNA section because on a convicted offender hit in the DNA database, we have to know that they have a qualifying offense, and we have to know that what that qualifying offense is. So you'd be helping us out if you go ahead and put that into the comments field. All right, the check all that apply, which is right here. Again, I apologize for the small font, but it is in your manual. We have a couple of different options here. We have a sex offender, incarceration, probation, parole, court-ordered, and other. You can select multiple criteria here, but please select something that applies to your offender. All right, at the bottom, I should note the collected by is a required field. Now it's empty. These items here in submitting agency should be populated upon your entry into the website using your username. The collected by is not, however. If you've got a jailer or an individual that does not necessarily do the entry into this website, that individual can be entered into here as the collector. You as the enterer want to make sure that you've got that name in there. Otherwise, we're going to contact you if we've got any trouble with that kit. All right, couple buttons at the bottom. We've got save. Now, we referred back to this at the offender entry website, the home screen for entering an offender. But here, if you're not quite done with that individual, say your social security number is not quite right, you're not sure of the qualifying offense, you can stop, save that offender, and then come back to that individual at a later time to make sure that you've got the correct information in there. We've also got cancel. This is an issue if you find out, again, that qualifying offense does not apply to a DNA collection. You can go ahead and cancel out, and that offender will not be saved into the database. Excuse me, the website. Finally, we've got this submit to lab over here. If all of your data entry is complete, go ahead and select submit to lab. All right, we click the submit to lab and this pops up. Here we're going to have the submitting information along the left-hand side of the screen here. It's basically going to say, are you sure you want to submit this to the laboratory? You've got a couple of options, yes or no. If for some reason at this point you notice there's an incorrect spelling, an incorrect date of birth, an incorrect DCI number, for instance, you want to hit no, you can go back to that offender and make the correction. It should be noted that once we have our programming complete, there will be a kit number on this screen. So it's another location where you can check your kit number. A couple of reminders at the bottom before you hit yes. We want to make sure you sign the form and collect prints on the back of the card. So all of that information is correct. Everything's ready to go. Go ahead and select yes. An electronic database card will be generated. That's what this is here. We've got the offender's information on this card. We also have the person collecting the sample, and their signature is required here. So after you've got this card up It's open on your screen. You're going to want to use your browser to go ahead and select File and Print. We recommend 2 copies, one for you and one for us. One needs to come to the laboratory with your sample. The other can be filed away and kept in your facility. Once you've got that card printed, you can come up here and click the Close button. All right, once you click the Close button, you're going to be brought back to the offender website. It's going to say, we're processing this. This is the completion screen. Once it's done accessioning, go ahead and click the Done button, and you are done with that particular offender. When this offender has been brought into the laboratory and that electronic database card has been scanned using the barcode, an email notification will come to you, the submitter, to notify you that we have received it at the laboratory. Okay, so back out at the home screen again. If for some reason you forgot to print it twice, or your printer ran out of paper and you had to cancel that print, you need to get back to that recent submission. You can come to the home screen, click the recent submission button, and go ahead and from there reprint that submission to the laboratory. In that particular recent submission, you will find not only yours, but your agency's submissions. So there might be a decent list of individuals there for reprintability. All right, another option here is Edit User Profile. Updates in this particular form can be made to the password, your name, your phone number, and your email address. We ask that when we activate this website, when we send out to you as a user, this website is ready to go, that you come in here and update your name, your phone number, and your email address. We won't have specific phone numbers for just you. We may have general agency phone numbers. We would really appreciate it if you could go in and make those updates to your user profile. And then finally, if for some reason you have a retirement or an individual moves away from the position that he or she was in, and you would like to deactivate their user or make a change to that user ID, you need to contact us at the laboratory. This is not something that you will be able to be allowed to do. All right, so let's talk about the required documentation that needs to be sent into our laboratory. First, we need a signed electronic database card, and that's what we printed off 2 copies of. That signed card appears here. As you can see, all the information is provided and printed for you, and you have your collector sign this form. This is the form that I stress you need your collector's information for, because your collector is going to have to sign and fill out the DNA collection envelope, which is here. This has all of the name, date of birth, social security card, or social security number information on it. On the back is where your collectors will actually have to sign, put their telephone number and their agency and the date of collection. So if your collector is not filling out the website and you have someone else doing the entry into the website, this is where you want to make sure that that collector's information is correctly put into the website. And finally, we want to remember that on our DNA collection card, old or new, on the back of that collection card is a place for fingerprints. I understand it's very small, but again, this information is in your manual. But there is a place for fingerprints. Now, what we are asking for is the print of a right thumb and a duplicate. That duplicate no longer says if necessary. So we want for sure a print of that right thumb and a duplicate of that right thumb. If they don't have a right thumb and you have to take another finger or another toe, go ahead and note what you took a print of so our fingerprint section can make the correct comparison. So all of this stuff is going to be, all this documentation and all of these items are going to be packaged in a white envelope. That envelope is going to be sealed and it's going to be sent to the laboratory. I should note that these envelopes are all taken care of with the correct sender information and prepaid postage. Please Do not change anything on these envelopes. They need to come as is. They will get to the correct location, we promise. All right, so we talked a little bit about what needs to go in to that envelope and be sent to the laboratory. The electronic database card, a completed DNA sample. Now, we have a new kit. As you see, it's a white envelope and not a manila envelope anymore. At the end of this particular presentation, you're going to watch a video on how to use the new kits. We also need a fingerprint, like I stressed before, and the supporting documentation on the FTA card itself. So, this gives you an idea as to what's going to be sent to the lab. We talked a little bit about that. Over here we have our new FTA buccal sample collection kit. You're going to use the swabs provided in the kit to collect a DNA sample onto that FTA paper. The fingerprints need to go onto the back, and the correct information for that offender needs to be on the front. You've got your electronic database card and your filled in DNA collection envelope. We've had a lot of questions on the fact that there's no longer an extra seal on the white envelopes. We did this because we have a seal on our envelope here, our DNA collection envelope. So we will have a sealed item that you can show that offender after you've made the DNA collection and put it into that collection envelope. All right, so that concludes my presentation today. If at any point in time you have any questions on this website or anything to do with the new collection kit or law, please feel free to give us a call at the lab. Like I said, my name is Kristen. The other individual that's working very closely with me on putting this website together is Kathleen Kinseth, and our general number at the lab is right here for your use. I would like to let you know that there's about a 7 to 8 minute video that I'm going to provide to you on the new DNA collection kit and how to use it. So I hope you enjoy that, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
This tutorial is designed as a guide for the DNA collection of offenders for submission to the State of Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Criminalistics Laboratory. In order to greatly increase our efficiency and in response to the expansion of Iowa's DNA law to include most aggravated misdemeanors, we are changing how we collect DNA database samples. The following video shows the steps of a collection using the new DNA database kits released in 2013, as shown on the left. If you have remaining collection kits containing cotton tip swabs, like those shown on the right, please use them prior to starting on the new kit model. Also, please note that this does not change how DNA samples should be collected for Casework samples. Please continue to use cotton-tipped swabs for the collection of known samples for submission to the Casework section. The new DNA database collection kits are distributed in white return envelopes. Inside the white envelope are all the supplies needed to correctly collect an offender DNA sample. When you are prepared to collect a DNA sample, start by removing all the database collection kit contents from the white envelope. The first step in the collection of a DNA database sample is the complete documentation of the necessary information. You will see a kit number displayed on both the data envelope and the DNA sample card. Ensure that the two numbers match. If they do not match, please cross off the kit number on the DNA sample card and write the kit number from the data envelope underneath. This notifies laboratory personnel that they are corresponding to the same offender. Please keep your own record of the name of the individual that is collected with each kit number. This will be required should laboratory personnel need to contact you regarding a sample. It is essential for accurate DNA records that the requested information is filled out in completion. The front side is information pertaining to the offender. The back side needs to contain contact information for you, the collector. Laboratory staff often needs to contact collectors regarding submitted offender samples. In addition to the data envelope, some offender and collector information must also be recorded on the front of the DNA sample card. Once all the necessary documentation has been made, you are ready to move on to fingerprinting. Space for 2 right thumb fingerprints are provided on the back side of the DNA sample card. Expose the black ink provided to collect 2 prints. For your convenience, a moistened wipe is also included for cleanup. Be sure to use the provided gloves when collecting an offender DNA sample. Have the offender rinse their mouth with water to clean the oral cavity prior to collection. For best results, oral cavity should be moistened for collection. Open one of the 2 green swabs and swab one of the inside cheeks of the mouth. Swab vigorously for at least 1 minute, making sure good contact is made between the swab and cheek. Open the DNA sample card to reveal 2 pink circles. Press the swab onto the first circle. Do not rub. Be sure to press down with all sides of the swab. You will see a slowly developed color change to white where adequate contact was made. Discard the used green swab. Repeat the process with the second swab on the opposite cheek and deposit the sample on the second circle of the DNA sample card. Discard the second swab. Slide the DNA sample card into the data envelope. Please note it may be a snug fit. Simply work the data collection card side to side until it is within the data envelope. Close the envelope and seal it with the peel and stick adhesive strip. Place the data envelope in the white shipping envelope and seal. The written instructions provided in the kit may mention a manila envelope and a shipping seal. Our current kit design does not contain these items. Promptly mail your collected offender sample to the laboratory for processing.